Hello. You're about to hear two very different creative people meeting up and swapping ideas without a presenter getting in the way in Only Artists. I'm Kathy Clugston and I'm just here to introduce them. Then they're free to go off wherever they want. This is Only Artists.
Hello, my name's Maxine Peake and I'm outside the ICA to meet Cosey Fanni Tutti. And we're at the ICA because in 1976, Cosey had a show called Prostitution, which caused a national furore, and the MP Nicholas Furban called Cosey and her band Throbbing Gristle the wreckers of civilization, which I think is really exciting. So I'm going to go and find out about her as being, for my money, one of the most influential and controversial avant-garde artists this country's produced. So let's go in and see what she has to say.
The actor and writer Maxine Peake meets the musician and performance artist Cosey Fanni Tutti.
I've had 2 coffees, that's why.
Maxine Peake was born just outside Bolton. Her television credits include leading roles in the series Dinner Ladies, Shameless and Silk. In 2014, she played Hamlet at the Royal Exchange Theatre, Manchester. She has written for radio and the stage, and her play about Lillian Bilocca, who campaigned for better safety in the fishing industry, was part of Hull's City of Culture celebrations.
There comes a point when you're on stage that you realise, right, this is it.
Cosey Fanni Tutti was born in Hull and began her artistic career there in 1969 when she joined a subversive art collective called COUM Transmissions. Founded by Genesis P. Orridge, the group staged surreal events or interventions around Hull and beyond.
Exchange of trust and a surrender point at which you're there together then.
Cosey worked for 2 years as a model for sex magazines and films to create a show about pornography and the sex industry called Prostitution. When it opened at the Institute of Contemporary Arts in 1976, it prompted walkouts, made headlines and provoked questions in Parliament. Cosey co-founded the industrial music band Throbbing Gristle with Genesis P. Orridge, Peter Christopherson and Chris Carter. Chris and Cosey later created their own band and now perform under the name Carter Tutti.
What really fascinates me is I can't see any influences in what you did. It was like you started something.
Yeah, it was just a case of being free to do what I wanted. And I didn't see the point of doing something that other people had done.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in, because of my upbringing and being told what to do, I also didn't want to carry that on, like following someone else, copying what they did. I didn't see the point in that at all. Yeah. But a good starting point for me was just basically the hippie movement beginning, where it just suddenly everybody was sort of, the word liberation emerged. And I sort of took that up and totally embraced it on every level. And I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, I can go anywhere and do what I want. And that's what I did. And I was lucky that I met people that were a very similar mindset at the time.
It's really interesting, nowadays there's all this talk about equality, but it's that word you said, liberation.
That is much better for me.
Yeah.
I mean, equality is going to be really tough in the long haul, because it's not just equality of women to men or in society, it's everybody. And the gender issue, that's shifting all the time. It's nothing to do with that. Equality is just equality. And liberation, brilliant.
Yeah, in my profession there's all this talk about pay and you go, of course equality, but at the end of it, I think that is more important.
Yeah, because I think you've also got to remember that men have got to be liberated from the situation they find themselves in now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a couple of generations now that don't think like my father did, or my uncle, or even my peers, which are, back then were misogynistic and sexist, and 60s, 70s, which was when I was young and trying to forge my way forward and, knocking the skittles down on the way.
And you made because there was big sacrifices, because you did, you were estranged from your family, weren't you, because of...
Yeah.
And how did that feel?
Well, it was upsetting because of my mum, really.
Yeah.
I'd already sort of separated myself from my father when I got thrown out of home for the second time for good. But there was the opportunity to go back and be reconciled, but not after the ICA prostitution show. That was it. That finished it all off completely, which was really sad for my mum,
And do you think anyway there was a secret pride in them with you?
I think possibly with my mum, but not my dad. No.
Yeah. just no.
He would see it as a slight on him.
Yeah.
Because it was all about him.
Yeah.
That's what it was like then. Families were, you know, I mean, people say patriarchy now, but I mean, it really was then solid. You really had to hammer your way through or just cower, basically.
Yeah.
Do as you're told, and I wasn't prepared to do as I was told.
So it's that achievement, you know, I know I'm sort of known for banging on about, you know, the working class and the struggles that we have, but it isn't just about, you know, having the financial support. Again, it's those ingrained sort of cultural attitudes that I think sometimes you have to struggle against. I mean, you know, your generation, I mean, I think my dad's still of that, you know, we have, although he's very proud that my politics and his politics are completely the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
He'll say to people, oh, we're like chalk and cheese politically, and he seems bizarrely proud, although all we do is argue with each other about it. But I'd be able to come to a point now where now he's sort of got older, and I'm not that was ever, well, that was fine, you know, as your dad, but it was always do as I say, you know, not as I do, sort of thing.
Yeah, you don't rock the boat, because there's a weird kind of like respect that you have for them, no matter what they put you through. Yeah. Your dad is your dad.
Exactly.
You know. And it is a very, I don't, if it is in middle or upper class, I don't know, but working class it definitely is. Yeah. Totally ingrained, you don't go against your dad. No. Or the man in your life that's coming up, you know. Mm. But coming from the fishing port of Hull, which was pretty tough, and the women are very, very tough. There's certain areas, even though my area was difficult, that, you know, it was sort of like not no go, but you knew that, you know, you'd be heading into headbutting territory. Yeah. But I didn't have anything against that, because I knew their life was really, really difficult. Yeah. And I watched recently about the fishing, getting the rights for the men and the safety out at sea and everything. And because that wasn't part of my life, because my dad was by then a fireman, but ironically he was a seaman. Strange, isn't it? He was in the Navy, he ran away to be in the Navy and fought the war. Oh God, when I think about it.
Well, that's it, that we can't sort of factor in that into their attitudes as well,
I
what
think
they
that's,
went through.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the same thing, is that what hell he'd been through in the war, I had no idea. So what I based my opinions of him on were limited. Yeah. Because, like my mum lost her first husband, who was in the RAF, and then met my father. So she was constantly in fear of losing her second husband. And I've got to think that they went through a Second World War, you know, and prior to that, their parents were in the First World War. And I don't think we have any idea what that really feels like. No. You know? The
climate then was you didn't talk about it. You know, now we would.
It's all full disclosure now. Yeah. But when I think that my dad, when he finished the war, he actually wanted to sign up again, and my mum said no, I couldn't take that. So he signed up for the fire service instead, which is a dangerous occupation, falling through roofs and things like that. I'm talking about my dad a lot.
Yeah, no, it's but as well, coming from Hull, because I wrote a play for Hull City Culture at the end, which was about Lillian Blocker and the Hessel Road. So I completely fell in love with Hull. Yeah. But it is its own place, isn't it? It's very unique. The people are very unique, and they are tough. You know what I mean?
They put the wall up. They do put the wall up to strangers, you know.
And it feels like they don't shout about what they do. And I was really surprised once I scratched the surface, sort of Hull's cultural heritage. I met some amazing artists and musicians and people that you go, oh, right, you're from Hull. I didn't
but I think that's one of the things with me, is that attitude of not shouting about your achievements. Yeah. There was that thing of like, don't get above yourself. Yeah. There's nothing special about you. Yeah. And that stayed with me, and I don't celebrate what I've done.
Well, if you
just do it.
Yeah, well, that's it. You are our foremost avant-garde artist. Well, you know what I mean? You should be. Anybody else would be.
Pride's not in my whole culture.
No. Well, I think I'm from Bolton, but that thing of stop showing off, nobody's interested.
Yeah. I'd said that to me all through my childhood. All I was doing was having fun and laughing and joking and messing about. Yeah. Stop showing off, sit down.
Be quiet.
Yeah. Was it said to boys? I wouldn't know, because there were two daughters. You know?
Well, I've got an older sister, so it was just, she was quite quiet. She didn't, it was.
Yeah, my sister was very quiet. She was the total opposite to me.
The reason I went into acting, because I thought, you get paid for talking. Because how much time I spent stood outside the class. Maxine, stop talking. Yes. Maxine, stop talking. Sorry. Outside, right, you know, and I'd spend most of my time stood outside the door, you know.
Yeah, I remember that. High school more, setting alarm clocks off in the desk and things. But the headmistress used to patrol to see who had been bad. Yeah. And I used to hide in the toilet, stood on the toilet, shut the door, so, open it a little bit as if there was no one in there,
Yeah. But did you know then, did you have a feeling then that's you wanted to be an artist? This was where your future was going to take you?
I had a feeling, and I used to, that thing with your hairbrush in your bedroom? I wasn't singing, I was being interviewed. It's weird, isn't it?
I used to do the Wogan. All I used to think about was I can't wait till I'm on Wogan. There was no career plan, it was just being able to talk about myself.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. Yeah. It's sort of like something you're aiming for in the future, where you'll actually be someone in your own right. I think that's what it was about. Really deep inside, that hadn't come out yet. Sort of like a bud waiting to flower.
It sounds terribly arrogant of me, but it's not I knew I'd do well because I thought I was good. I just sort of, in a funny way at the back of my mind, I thought I knew it would all work out, even though I got lots of rejection and everything. I think maybe it's a little bit of madness, but it was like, I've got to keep going. Every time people said no, there was no way that I went, I'm ever going to stop. I just thought, that's another no, just swerve that and keep. I mean, I know it's different for you because you create,
creating my own
way. Yeah.
But I think there is that real strong belief in yourself, no matter where you're going, where you're heading. And I think some people have it and some don't.
Yeah.
There's leaders and followers and everything in between, and they all sort of make the mix, which is really important. But yeah, I did have that.
Yeah.
And I was going to be who I wanted to be and do what I wanted to do.
Could you give us a couple of examples of your work with COUM and interventions?
COUM started off obviously in Hull, because that's where I met Genesis, and he'd begun it with a friend of his, Tim Poston, and we started doing, I suppose, quite surreal little pastiches around the main shopping centre of Hull. So we would have these very strange, gaudy costumes on, made from anything we could get our hands on, from plastic factories or jumble sales. I used to go to jumble sales all the time, and back then you could get some really interesting things, not just clothes but objects as well. But they wouldn't be plays or anything like that. We'd just all take a character of our own that we fancied fantasising about at the time and acting it out on the streets, and then sort of gesturing to people to join in. So we'd have like acoustic instruments like guitars, but they'd be broken, and so you could get weird sounds with it, and frying pans that were sprayed gold that you'd use as a drum or something. All those weird kind of things that were not normal use of either instruments, objects or clothes, that shouldn't be seen on the street in Hull outside Monument Fisheries. But after that, then we started going, when the Fanfare for Europe happened, when we joined the EU, we went over to Europe, and then we changed quite a lot because we met artists from London. So we collaborated with them, and that kind of made us move to London. And I started doing the sex magazine work, so then my everyday thing that I was doing and my art became one almost, because I was going around London auditioning and things with my model portfolio. And that got integrated into the art and the actions. So they became more sexualised as well.
So you went sort of into the sex industry to then influence through into your art. Can you explain a bit about how that came about?
Well, coming from that liberation again that we're talking about, and being held down as a woman in, every class of society. You were supposed to marry, be a housewife or a lady or whatever, of leisure, and bring up your children. That was your purpose in life, but I never saw myself doing that ever. So when, when the hippie movement, it couldn't have been timed better for me.
Yeah.
Because I thought, it's not me that just thinks like that. There's other people and there's a movement involved with this. Also because the music changed as well. It went from rock and roll to protest songs, which were amazing, because that galvanised you as well, wanting change. So the whole thing began with wanting change and to experiment, explore new territories. For me as a woman as well, the world of men I always thought was open to me, because it was everybody's world. It still is. It makes no difference. And I took that on board, and I ran with it, and I loved it. And my dad throwing me out of home was a gift.
Once you were working in the industry, did you still feel liberated, or was there parts of the industry that obviously...
Yeah, I didn't answer your question, sorry.
No, it's all
I went
right.
off on a different tangent.
It's great.
No, because it started in Hull, that's why, doing all the male art and everything, and people started including images from sex magazines. And that was when I thought, this is kind of an interesting area, really. You know, I mean, these women doing this. And I think because I would never want to use someone else's image, or I didn't know what the circumstances were why these women had done that work. And I found out that everybody has a different reason.
Yeah.
So, and I thought, if I'm going to do a work like this, then it's great to inform myself of that area from personal experience, so that I know it, I know what I'm talking about, I've experienced it, and along the way I'd have had an idea of the world of sex, because these magazines were presenting, this is how it should be, this is what you should do, which it's really expanded now. I mean, it's like nothing else on the internet. But then it was all, you know, backroom, back shelf stuff, under the counter brown bags, brown envelopes through the post. So it had a kind of clandestine thing that fascinated me as well. You know, it was the unknown, and you shouldn't go there, territory you shouldn't tread. And because my dad was a sailor, so there were things that when I went round the house and discovered them, I knew that there was history in my house in that area. And then I did find out later that my uncle told me, he said, well, you know, your Aunt Molly used to run a knocking shop in the war, don't you? And I went, who's Aunt Molly? That's where I get it from. Ironically, it's on my dad's side, who disowned me, but it was his, your Aunt Molly. So I wrote off to magazines, and they said, when you get to London, give us a call. I think it was just 3 days after I moved there that I did my first job.
How did it feel, your first job? How did it...
Did it live?
Yeah.
Really scary. Because it was like Peeping Tom. Upstairs above a camera shop. No films in the camera at times. And very 1950s, you know, those gold iron ornate chairs for the cocktail bar with the velvet cushions. It was all that and a fair rug to lay on. It was really
classy.
Really classy, yeah. And a little bit shoddy.
Yeah.
My friend, she said to me, it won't get worse than this.
That's hard. But I mean, were there times when you did feel unsafe?
Oh yeah,
Seriously,
there were. And I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
But there was something in me, a bit like when you're saying you get rejected, there's a drive in you that says there's something I have to do to get where I want to be. And if it means all these rejections, or in my case, if it means all these strange situations that I really don't want to be in, but I suppose you call it character building, it's a really horrible thing to say.
But it's that thing, you went, I'm not going to use these images of women because I don't know the situation. So you know, how many people would, to create something, would actually put themselves in that situation to really understand? I mean...
Yeah, but I had to do that for me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like what you'd call a feminist decision, because it wasn't even around then. It was just me looking at their faces, me looking at the locations they were in, the guys they were with, and I'm wondering at what point was this organised?
Yeah.
It was just something I wanted to go and explore, and I felt I needed to. I think my sex drive probably came from my father, I don't know, or my Aunt Molly.
My
Aunt Molly. But that was another drive. I've never held back with that at all. You know, I've always been curious of my body and my sexuality from a young age. In junior school I was caught in the cupboard with boys, you know, so it wasn't something that came from nowhere. And I think that shocked me as well when I looked back at my life when I wrote my book, because I always think, young girls at 10, they're sexualised, and I'm thinking, well, actually, I was too. And girls in my first year in high school lost their virginity, and they were 11.
Yeah, well, I still remember 2 of my friends were 12, 13.
Yeah.
You know, to boys who were 25, 26.
Oh, my God.
And we didn't really think...
I think you're so curious when you're young as a girl.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point at which you're so vulnerable as well. And I can't forgive any adult male that takes advantage of that. Because they are the adult in that situation, and they should know that it's wrong.
It. I mean, I was a big podgy tomboy, so nobody, you know, and a stranger, I think, well, thank God, because nobody was interested in me. I was a bit of a prude as well, I think. But at that point, you know what I mean? I was a bit like horrified. Oh my God, they've had sex, you know.
I was a bit jealous.
Yeah.
Because I was at an all-girls school, you see.
Yeah.
But they were still going out and doing it, and I was just like thinking, why aren't I? You know, why doesn't anyone want me, kind of thing.
But then I used to think, oh, the boys will like me if I dress and behave like a... I just got it all wrong. As long as I could go to the chippy on the way home, they'd all be down the back street snogging and whatever, and I'd be going, do you want a chip farm or chips and gravy? Yeah, pea wet.
So I found out years later that they were scared of me.
Well, I think, well, again...
They daren't approach me in case I said clear off.
Isn't it funny? And I think I've been brought up with that old fear of getting pregnant. Don't get pregnant, ruin your life.
Yeah.
And I had a very close relationship with my grandparents, and I thought, oh, if anything happens and I let, my nan and Jim down, then it sort of messes you up a little bit about it.
It does, the fear of getting pregnant.
Yeah, and your life will be over.
And you bring disgrace on the family as well.
But can we talk, because we're at the ICA, so this was...
Gosh, yeah.
I mean, you've been back since, obviously.
Oh,
since,
quite a few times, yeah.
1976 was the prostitution show and the furore that it caused. Can you tell me a little bit more about, what the show was?
Well, originally, Ted Little was director then. He asked us to do a male art show. But by the time we got around to doing it, we'd sort of moved on to wanting to give up doing the art and do Throbbing Gristle. And I'd more or less accumulated all the magazines I wanted, because I went through all the different genres, from pocketbook to high-end Penthouse, that kind of magazine. So we proposed doing a retrospective of COUM, put it all on the wall, launched Throbbing Gristle. Hey-ho, new project. But it didn't work out like that, because there was a big hoo-ha about the magazines being in the gallery. So we had to hide them away in the back room. And they then had to form a membership for people to come and look at them.
It's ludicrous, isn't it?
I know it is ludicrous, but that's what it was like back then. And then, of course, we had the newspapers come down, and it was 2 weeks of front page condemnation and accusation. And
But then these are the papers, you turn to page 3.
Oh, yes, I know.
And there's a topless...
Yeah, but I'm a woman doing it, aren't I?
So
I've turned their world inside out onto themselves. I think that's what it was about.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it like that at the time. I just saw it as me putting my work on the wall, and I had that was legitimate. And then someone comes in and says, yes, but you can't show it, and you shouldn't have done it in the first... But all that kind of thing came through, and it was just suddenly COUM was a sex troupe that toured the world on Arts Council grants. And it wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it makes good headlines and destroys my relationship with my parents in the meantime.
Nicholas Fairbairn with his...
Yeah.
You were the wreckers of civilization, which I think I'd have that as a T-shirt and wear it constantly.
I'm sure there's bootleg ones of them about.
But I mean, how excited to be...
Yeah, but at the time it was just like, he said what? Oh, that's a good slogan. And we were so focused on getting the show up, because it nearly didn't happen. Framing stuff, all the logistics of getting everything from Hackney here when the van won't start, that kind of thing, people don't see that.
Yeah.
I think those bits are what makes it human, and you realise where work comes from. The work itself comes from all these struggles you have.
Yeah.
Building equipment, it all going wrong, loading it in the van yourself because you have no money. You have to be inventive about what you do, which is one of the reasons the TG sound ever came about, because we didn't want anything bog standard, so we had to find a way of making something that sounded different. I say TG a lot because it was abbreviated from Throbbing Gristle.
But again, you created a genre of music.
I know.
Again, it's
not something I think of. I do more so now because people say it.
Yeah.
And then when people say it wrong, I get the ump. Because I think, that's not right. Like the grandfathers or grandmothers of industrial music. No, the founders, please.
Yeah.
Then I think, I can lay claim to that.
Yeah.
With the other members of TG.
Listen, it's how it still feels, there's nothing dated about it. The sort of vision that you had was extraordinary.
We were doing the soundtrack to how we felt then and the state of the UK.
Yeah.
And everything that was going wrong. Now we're in this position here, which is very similar to the 70s, but actually I think is worse. With Trump, Russia, Brexit, I'm hoping that will galvanise them to do something.
Yeah.
And I think you'll get a very different sound, hopefully. It'd be brilliant if the new genre emerged from it all.
Yeah.
I just love it when people do things.
Yeah.
And I would always encourage it.
But I think that's it, isn't it? It is about encouraging. People told me I wasn't very good at acting, and I wasn't. But I had to work at it.
But that's something that, me and Chris totally admire. Could never act.
Yeah, but you have. But you're a performer, so you are an actor. You know what I mean?
No, I'm myself up there.
But I mean, when you were doing the stripping, that must have been... Were you yourself, or did you put on... Was a little bit of a character came in, or...?
Only in so much as the other girls, we all were like that. We knew what the job description was,
Yeah.
and yet we each put our twist on it. I had another name, I was Scarlet. But it was still me, because I made all my own costumes and I chose all my own music, and I couldn't be me up there being a stripper, if you like. It's sort of like a second thing going on, unless I'd laid down all those things to enable me to do that.
But that's...
Is that like acting?
Yeah, that's acting. You've created, you know what I mean?
No, I can't be someone else, though,
Yeah, but I think even...
that I can't relate to. I could relate to that.
Yeah, but that's just relating. Every character, I suppose, I play always has elements of me in there somewhere, even if people say, oh, you're very different. I go, well, we've got so many different character traits.
I think with you and really good actors is that you can suspend the role you've done before, that you don't carry that over to what I'm watching you do now.
But my whole fear is, every time I do something new, I go, oh, people think I'm just doing it.
No,
I always laugh and go, I always change my hair colour or have an haircut, so they think I'm a bit different. So sometimes
your skills are so diverse. I mean, when you think about what you've done...
But I think that stems back from always being... When I was at drama school, they said, well, because you're northern, you probably end up in Coronation Street. No, I'm full of admiration for people in Coronation Street, don't get me wrong, but there was that thing, if you're northern, that is what's down for you. And so I suppose in a way it made me go, oh, I've got to try and be, different, keep as versatile as possible. So
or was
I've
that just
always...
your voice inside you saying, I want to be who I want to be, not...
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'd sort of run on anger, if I'm honest. I've got a bit of... And I'm not...
Is that the northern in us?
But I love it. People go, angry women. And I said, well, as long as you channel it, it's not that I go around being aggressive, but I get... usually when I'm angry, that's when I feel a bit more creative or braver. I go, right, I'm annoyed now, so I'm going to use that in a positive way. But I think we've got so many different character traits that we can tap into. I think we can be many different people.
Well, all right, I'll put it another way. I'm not interested in being anyone else.
Right, okay. See, now I am.
I know.
You see, I'd love to,
Yeah. You sound like a total egomaniac. Everything is self-based with me. And it's like that because I know then I can relate to the world, not only on my terms, but like give myself and take things that I've created to other people, and then reciprocal dialogue follows that, and that's what I'm interested in.
But that is an energy of everything coming from yourself. I mean, what you give out and like what you receive. I mean, that must be... Yeah, I was going to say. Because at least we can put a barrier, you put a costume on, you put
that's true.
You do something. But it's complete energy is open and out, and it's all about that self-generation. And I just think, wow, it's an extremely generous thing to do.
Yeah, possibly. I've never thought of it like that. I've just thought of it as of asking people to share with me.
It is a big sacrifice as well.
I suppose it is, but it's the only way I've felt works for me, to be in the world, is to be in it.
Only artists. Tell you what, have another one on me. Go to BBC Radio 4.